In the news tonight, Prime Minister disappointed with irresponsible behavior. Psychosocial support for maritime islands. And more than $6 million in estimated fire damage.
From the studios of FBC Suva, Edwin Nunn.
Pulunaka, Fiji. Prime Minister Voringin Bainimarama is disappointed with the complacency of some people who made unauthorized trips to outer islands and carried the virus with them. Speaking on Radio Fiji One's Nai Lalakai program, Bainimarama says these actions are intolerable. Apanisa Wangetadovu reports 11 new COVID-19 infections were recorded in Kandavu, bringing the total number of active cases on the island to 175.
Critical resources have been deployed to islands because of the actions of those who simply do not care.
We have sent our team to Kandavu. This is because of the few that disregard measures and were complacent. But we will fight the virus on the island as there is no time for finger pointing.
As community transmissions are evident in some of the islands, Bainimarama says every Fijian needs to do their part.
Ask yourself, what is your role to fight the pandemic? We must all do our part by following measures that are in place.
The head of the government says the health ministry has been tasked to halt the virus that has entered the green zones once and for all.
Teams are now in Kandavu, Yasawa and the north to assist the health teams in these areas to stop the transmission. People will be put into isolation and quarantined.
The second wave of the pandemic hit Fiji 4 months ago, claiming 489 lives to date. The Prime Minister says there is no backing down by the frontliners as Fiji anticipates returning to normalcy in the near future. Apinisa Wangarandobu, FBC News.
The recent spike in COVID cases in the maritime islands has left some villagers in affected communities worried, scared and anxious. The Health Ministry says villagers will be emotionally affected as the virus continues to spread. However, it has deployed health teams to provide psychosocial support. Kelly Vadala reports.
Health teams sent to Kandavu and Malolo Island comprises of support teams that will be providing counselling services.
Our doctors too and nurses and all our health staff, as part of their training, there's a significant part of their training through FNU and University of Fiji psychosocial support.
Health Minister Dr. Feremi Wanganembete says villagers have seen the dark consequences of the virus on Viti level and this will automatically trigger a lot of questions.
As part of our deployment, we also look into the psychosocial support component and it's also other government ministries that work with us.
An NGO Empower Pacific says it is now reaching out to the affected islands as well.
Maritime clients, since the cases are on the rise, we are going to be providing psychosocial support via telecounselling. So we have a toll-free counselling helpline, which is available 24/7, and the number is 5626.
The ministry says its staff on the ground are well trained in mental health support and will provide initial care as well as refer cases appropriately if required. Kelly Vadala, FBC News.
More than $6 million in losses have been incurred by property owners as a result of fires so far this year. This month alone, the National Fire Authority recorded 15 residential fires, which has left 54 people homeless. Kritika Kumar reports.
The local government minister says the National Fire Authority attended to 10 fire incidents last week.
On 24th of August, there was a fire in Nakasi and Navoli Bar. On 25th, there was a fire in Yalalevu Bar and Yandua Singatoka. On 26th, Punika Lambasa. On 28th, Navua and Tadira. On 29th, fire in Bar and Waini Malika. And on 30th of August, we had a fire in Yoroi village, Sabu Sabu.
From January to August, the NFA has dealt with 75 structural fires, which cost around $6.7 million.
It also costed NFA to douse the fire, and they incurred around $310,000 so far just to handle the fire that occurred around the country.
NFA Chief Executive Puamau Sowane says, "We are in the dry season and such incidents are expected to rise."
We have noted an increase of fire during this period of dry season.
The NFA has also received complaints regarding Fijians burning rubbish in their backyard. Soane is reminding the public that it is illegal to burn rubbish in the backyard. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
The Ministry of Local Government will be shortlisting candidates and conducting interviews for special administrator positions soon. The tenure for special administrators of the 13 municipal councils ended on Friday. Kritika Kumar reports the ministry intends to attract the right skills needed to reform municipalities.
Premila Kumar says they will be looking at governance and financial acumen.
Not, the past setting, we did not attract people with financial acumen. So right decisions were not made.
The ministry is looking for candidates who can make sound decisions and take the municipalities forward.
We should be looking forward to a day where the municipalities can say that, look, we can reduce the rates because we are able to collect enough revenue from rental properties or through other means.
Outgoing Nasinu Special Administrator Bhaskaran Nair says, since 2019, the special administrators have implemented several successful projects.
We will, keen on doing some investments projects, particularly that would yield, further sort of income to the council.
The minister has commended outgoing special administrators for clearing the backlog of annual reports. Kritika Kumar, FBC News.
And to our COVID-19 update for tonight, Fiji recorded 184 new COVID-19 infections for the period ending 8 a.m. yesterday. 133 cases are from the west, 40 from the Central Division and 11 from Kandavu. 10 people have died from COVID-19 over a 4-day period from the 26th to the 30th of August. Fiji has recorded 46,141 cases since April this year. There are now 19,463 active cases with 25,951 recoveries in total. The COVID-19 death toll stands at 489. The vaccination campaign also continues. In the latest update, 558,944 people, or 95.3% of the population, have received their first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine. 266,608 people, or 45.4% of eligible Fijians, are now fully vaccinated. The 5 most vaccinated areas include Mba, Rewa, Nanunga and Naitasiri, which have achieved 100% first jabs administered, and next is Nadi. And Anjali Ashna Lata from Nepani Nasinu is fully vaccinated. When are you getting your jabs? Up ahead, Bulitavu Seat Challenge case to be heard on Monday. And fur seal spotted in Benga. Welcome back. The Court of Disputed Returns was convened via video conferencing this morning to hear a matter filed by Sodelpa leader William Ngavoka against party member Mosesim Bulitavu. The submission filed before Chief Justice Kamal Kumar seeks a court ruling declaring Bulitavu's seat in Parliament vacant for breaches of party directives. Bulitavu's lawyer Sushil Sharma told the court they are opposing the application and will challenge a document which supposedly has the party's resolution and consensus for the case to be brought to court. He claims to have evidence the meeting, which was purportedly convened on August 6th, never actually eventuated. Solicitor General Sharvada Sharma appeared for Speaker of Parliament Ratu Ipeli Nailatikau and Attorney General Ayaz Sayed Qayyum. The case has been adjourned to Monday next week for hearing. Humanitarian workers say there is a need to localize healthcare services. This area of concern has been exacerbated by the consequences of the pandemic. Christiana Uluwai reports.
Humanitarian organizations have called for the need to bring health services down to the community level, particularly the sexual reproductive health service.
The great need to accelerate localization and decentralization of health services,
The Ministry of Health acknowledged there are challenges, but they are working with the resources they have.
Once we are challenged like the Ministry of Health around the world, we are able to stand and continue to respond and deliver services as the best as we can.
Humanitarian workers are calling for a cohesive collaboration to ensure that Fijians are provided the services they need in the safest way possible.
If we don't have the ability to do that because of resources, we need to work with stakeholders.
More than 400 people have lost their lives to COVID-19, and this includes nursing mothers. Christiana Uluwai, FBC News.
Over $1 billion worth of environment impact assessments were processed and approved by the government in the last financial year. While making submissions to the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, Acting Permanent Secretary for Environment Ritesh Das says the assessments are crucial in mitigating environment and social impacts of development. Sanya Nimboila reports.
EIA are critical to ensure the natural and historic heritage of a proposed development site is not affected.
The Department of Environment remains the sole agency for the administration of the EIA process, and this has been in place since 2007. And if you take a longer term view, this amounted to $5.3 billion in the last 4 years. This is testament of the strength of the EIA process that the ministry administers.
Committee member Aseri Randronro questioned the involvement of other ministries following the establishment of units within ministries to help in EIA approvals.
At what stage do you involve this environmental office? During the EIA stage or prior to that? Can engage at their own cost, or does the Department of Environment share the cost of their involvement?
We also engage them during joint site inspections for scoping of any EIA applications. They are involved at their own cost.
The assessment is a legislative process under the Environment Act of 2005 and Environment Management Regulations of 2007 and is being administered by the Environment Department since the last 14 years. Sainia Nimboila, FBC News.
The Fijian Elections Office will be recruiting up to 17,000 election officials, with the first of 3 phases starting tomorrow. Supervisor of Elections Mohammed Sanim says they will first target people who've already worked in the 2018 general election. Applicants can enter their details online, so the FEO is able to update its records. Sanim says phase 2 will begin in January for those who have not worked for the FEO previously. Details of the third phase will be announced once the first 2 are complete.
Appointment of staff at the Fijian Elections Office is based on merits, and all persons who will submit their details during the first phase or apply to work for us during the second phase will undergo a merits-based assessment criteria so that we can determine and appoint those who have better merits. We will be operating, and they will be operating the polling stations in the 2022 general election.
The people of Rukua village in Benga got a surprise this morning, finding what's believed to be a New Zealand fur seal on their shores. These mammals are uncommon in Fiji waters, and curious villagers were at the beach trying to get a closer look. The fur seal even came out of the water to rest on some rocks. Rukua villager Navitalai Ndurusolo says they spotted it at around 9 o'clock last night and thought it would have swam away by this morning. However, they were surprised to see the seal still near the island this morning during high tide. Many who came to the beach to get a closer look were taking videos and pictures, but Ndurusolo adds they had never seen one before and were wary of the animal. Coming up in world news, Kabul residents criticize US attacks. And later in sports, Fijiana inspires female footballers.
The price of fuel and liquefied petroleum gas will increase from tomorrow. The Fijian Competition and Consumer Commission says the change in local prices is due to favorable movements in international markets. Motor Spirit will cost $2.54 per litre, an increase of 8 cents, while Premix will increase by 7 cents per litre and cost Premix $2.15. The price of diesel will increase by 1 cent and cost $2.06 per litre. Kerosene is the only commodity that will see a decrease in price price by 8 cents a litre and cost $1.55 from tomorrow. LPG products will see an increase in price across the board. A 4.5 kg cylinder will cost $15.19, an increase of $1.41. The price of a 12 kg cylinder will increase from $36.74 to $40.51. This is an increase of $3.77. The price of a 13 kg cylinder will increase by $4.09 and cost from $39.80 to $43.89. Bulk gas will cost $2.86 per kg, an increase of 26 cents per kg, and auto gas will increase from $1.74 to $1.92. The FCCC will conduct the next fuel and LPG price review on October 1st. Tourism Fiji Chief Executive Brent Hill says morale is high among the industry players as they work on reopening the business. Hill, who officially started work in the Nandi office last week, is raring to get the industry back on its feet, which has been reeling from the impacts of the pandemic since March 2020. Details with Felipe Naikaso.
Discussions are underway to identify the protocols that will need to be implemented when borders reopen.
There will probably be some more processes as we go to ensure that it's done safely for locals and for the tourists. So I think from that perspective, the industry, I have absolute confidence that they will support and work with us.
A few resorts have also told FBC News that while Fiji is still planning to restart the industry, they've already received bookings. This is a positive sign given the high competition from other destinations.
I do think that as we go into next year, then we'll start seeing more and more coming. From a Fiji perspective, we will reopen to the world. But obviously it depends on what those home governments do.
Everybody is hunger for business to start off with, and everybody trying to get as much business as possible. No doubt there could be a bit of a competition here and there. But I think fair play is always our practice.
It's good news that we have a lead time now, a few months to prepare for. As you know that we need to switch on big engines here.
Tourism Fiji will continue to hold virtual meetings with operators in getting their feedback. Felipe Naikaso, FBC News.
Here are the latest local exchange rates. As set early this morning, the Sangamoli declined against all international currencies except the Aussie dollar and the Japanese yen. Onto the commodities market, crude oil rose to close at over $69 a barrel. Gold declines, closing at $1,812 per ounce. And silver also declined, closing at $24.07 per ounce. And we now join Sharon from HFC Bank to give us the latest figures from the money market.
Good evening. The US dollar stabilized after falling to two-week lows yesterday. The dollar had one of its biggest daily percentage declines of the month over the weekend after their Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said tapering could begin this year. However, the central bank was in no hurry to raise interest rates. Investors are now turning their focus to this week's US payrolls report. It will provide more insight into the Fed's likely policy path. Elsewhere, the euro was up 0.06% against the greenback after hitting its highest in more than 3 weeks, while the Japanese yen weakened 0.03%. Closer to home, the Aussie dollar remained subdued after stepping back from two-week top. Mixed Australian business indicators yesterday have weighed on the Aussie dollar. Inventories rose 0.2% in second quarter, well short of the forecast of 1%. Australia will be releasing their GDP numbers tomorrow. The event is likely to be a market mover for our trade partner currency. But for now, that's all I have from your HFC Bank. Thank you.
BSP Health, a subsidiary of BSP Life, has launched a new product called Value Healthcare. Managing Director Michael Nazola says this is their ongoing efforts to assist people get access to affordable, tailor-made insurance products. Nazola says the pandemic has heightened both the awareness and the need for medical insurance. He highlights medical insurance is critical as it mitigates the cost of expensive specialized treatments. From January to July this year, BSP paid $6 million for medical treatments. That is the latest from my end, but coming up after the break, find out forensics officers are helping in the fight against COVID-19. Stay with us.
Madagascar is on the brink of experiencing the world's first climate change famine, according to the United Nations. It says tens of thousands of people are already suffering catastrophic levels of hunger and food insecurity after 4 years without rain.
Isolated farming communities like this, in the village of Voitelo in Madagascar's southern Anosi region, are some of the last people to contribute to climate change. But they are among the first to suffer its devastating consequences. The world's first climate change famine, according to the UN. In the Mahali commune, villagers have no crops, humanitarian workers have infrequent access, and bandits plunder what's left. After 3 years without rain, when the first load of food aid finally got through in March last year, it was too late. 150 villagers had already died. Sinazi and her 8 children make do with what they have. A daughter uses an old rice sack as a dress. It doubles up as a bed to her brother. The World Food Programme says that in an area where people depend on their own agriculture to survive, the land is 7 times more barren than it was even a year ago.
We eat wild roots, but we are not able to cook them. We put them in the pot, we cover them with water, but it stays raw. I would like a blanket, clothes, and sandals, but most of all, I would like to eat.
Although Madagascar experiences frequent droughts and is often affected by the change in weather patterns caused by El Niño, UN experts point to the latest IPCC reports on to draw a direct link between climate change and Madagascar's current aridity crisis.
Service beyond the thin blue line is the motto of 12 officers of the police forensics team during this second wave of COVID-19. Deputy Director Forensic Science Services SP Margaret Marshall, who's been with the team for 31 years, shares some of her experiences, including retrieving bodies from people's homes, some of whom later tested positive for the virus. Lina Rees with this story.
Superintendent Margaret Marshall heads a team of police forensic officers who assist the Ministry of Health retrieve bodies when a report is lodged.
As you know, in any pandemic or any disaster, there's always a criminal element can be masked behind this. So my role with my experience in there is to eliminate any criminal element.
Marshall says it is unfortunate the majority of those who succumbed to the virus had not been vaccinated.
So we go on to ask if they got their jabs. Most of the bodies that we have processed so far, it's sad to say that most of them didn't take their jab, not even the first one or the second one.
A cancer survivor herself, she says proper PPE and strict adherence to COVID-safe measures has prevented any forensics officer testing positive.
We are happy that even none of our police officers serving in the front line, none of them have got COVID or died of COVID. So for us, it's a successful operation.
Marshall has supported calls for people to get vaccinated for their own safety and that of their loved ones. Lina Rees, FBC News.
In Q&A tonight, the Education Ministry is weighing various options to safely reopen schools. Kritika Kumar caught up with Minister Premila Kumar.
For your time and for this interview. First of all, as we all know, you have taken over the Education Ministry. So what are some of the areas you want to focus on in this financial year?
I do realize after discussing with the Permanent Secretary and the Head of Sections, there are certain pertinent issues that we have to address immediately. One is we need to plan the opening of schools in a COVID-safe environment, right? Because, you know, with coronavirus, they love to thrive in a social environment. And schools, they are. Schools create this social environment. And we need to take care of it so that our children are safe.
Have the teachers been able to deliver the worksheets on time?
During this time, teachers have been working extremely hard in preparing lessons. They have prepared all the resources, printed them, and they got it delivered to some schools. And their parents have been picking up printed materials, particularly those parents who don't have a better internet service.
Just in terms of the current challenges that the ministry might be facing because of the pandemic, what are those?
We need to move on with our education, but we have to find the right mix. How do we do that? By creating the safest environment for our children. So it is a challenge.
And Jamie's here with sports.
Again, good evening in sports tonight. Venues for Ndrua home matches to be confirmed. And Fiji volleyball plans ahead. Details coming up. The wait is almost over for the Fijian Ndrua and Moana Pacifica as it joins Australian and New Zealand clubs in a new 12-team Super Rugby Pacific competition from next year. However, a decision on where the Fijian Ndrua will play its home matches in 2022 is yet to be made. Aussie Matea's Paralympic journey has come to an end after finishing 10th in the Javelin F64 final at the Tokyo Games last night. In his first time competing at the level, Matea says it's been a good experience and he has enjoyed every step of the journey. He adds the lessons learned at the Paralympics will also help him at future events. The Fiji Volleyball Interim Administration wants a national team to take part in the Pacific Mini Games and Commonwealth Games next year. Fiji Volleyball Interim President Kemweli Naingama says forming a new national squad will be easier said than done. But first, the Federation is working on ensuring its local competition gets back on track and its debts are cleared.
One of the sole reasons that we have come together to form the interim administration of the Fiji Volleyball Federation because of the international commitment.
The Fijiana's Tokyo Olympic Games achievement has not only had a positive impact on women's rugby, but also on other sports in Fiji where women are striving to get recognition and support. The Fiji national women's football team has been inspired and hopes to one day mirror the achievements of the Fijiana, beginning with more international matches. Karlaini Tavi reports.
The responsibility now lies on the women's national football team to step up.
The Fijiana has shown us that they can show that class, and it's a motivation not only to football players but to all women and girls who would like to represent Fiji in whichever sports they dream of to represent the country.
National women's coach Marika Rondu says they're working on getting more international competitions.
We want to expose our players as much as possible in international matches so that we keep our girls motivated.
Despite losing some of its key players to rugby, Fiji Football Women's Vice President Nazia Ali Krishna believes they have what it takes to beat top-ranked teams.
We've lost some good players, and there are some opportunities in rugby and other sports that are maybe not readily available at the moment for girls in Fiji, but it's something that we want to work on, to provide more opportunities for girls to play sport and be able to make a career out of it.
The 45-member extended squad, which includes a few overseas players, will march into camp as soon as the restrictions are lifted. Karleni Tavi, FBC Sports.
Western Australia is psyched up and ready to host the third Bledisloe Cup test this weekend between the Wallabies and All Blacks. While New Zealand might have retained the Bledisloe, the match still holds a lot of significance for Australia's largest state. That's it from Sports Tonight. Coming up in Weird and Wonderful, 200 couples tie the knot in Peru. Find out more after the break.
Looking at the weather today, a weak trough of low pressure lies slow moving just to the northeast of the group. Associated cloud and showers affects the eastern and northern parts of the country. Now to the west, it was humid with sunshine and some clouds. Eastwards from Pekhaba to Suva, humid with on and off rain and drizzle. In the north, rather cloudy, a shower in spots this morning followed by occasional rain and drizzle this afternoon. Places we will be checking out are Kandavu, Lautoka and Savu-Savu. Savu-Savu had the highest humidity level of 85%. At sea, moderate to fresh southeasterly winds, moderate to rough seas. Turning to the tides, high tide is at 39 minutes past midnight and low tide is at 7:13 a.m. Sunrise is at 6:15. For tomorrow, cloudy periods with some showers over the eastern parts and interior of the other larger islands, Lau and Lomaiviti groups. Elsewhere fine apart from possible isolated afternoon or evening showers. The outlook for Thursday, some showers over Vanuatu, Taveuni, the eastern parts and interior of the other larger islands and the eastern division. Our shot of the day. As seen earlier, a villager in Rukuambenga tries to get a close-up look of a sea lion sent in by Jerry Tangutu. That's the weather for now, and it's back to Edwin.
In Fijian Pulse, we ask, are you excited about our borders opening by November 1st?
I think it's very good. We'll be so happy to move around.
No, we should not open our border until all the vaccination has been done.
I'm happy for the announcement.
Yeah, they should open the border because business should start so that people can earn.
It's love in the time of COVID with 200 couples and one wedding in Lima, Peru. The ceremony was presided over by the mayor of Lima, and couples had to go through a health screening before they were allowed to attend. The oldest couple there were an 82-year-old and an 87-year-old, and the youngest were 24-year-olds. The couples were given a fruit basket and offered a coffee break by local authorities. The ceremonies were aired via the Facebook page of Lima's municipality for relatives who were unable to attend. And recapping our main stories, Prime Minister disappointed with irresponsible behavior, psychosocial support for maritime islands, and over $6 million in estimated fire damage. For these stories and others, tune in daily to our sister station Gold FM. To our poll question, this week we are asking, should anyone found cheating the system for government assistance be charged? Visit our FBC News website to take part. And do remember to send us newsworthy pictures and videos, fbcnews@fbc.com.fj, or share it with us via social media. You can also download our FBC app to keep updated with the very latest in news and sports and listen to our 6 stations live. That's your news this evening. I'll see you again tomorrow. Until then, stay safe. Modemanta.